Beautiful. Good timing. Hi, everybody. Hello to another Catastrophe Healing Talk. And today we are going to talk about what is spirituality in the ancient teachings. And my name is Helmut. I am here again with our beautiful friends, Laura and Laura. Hi, guys. And of course, Kay Cordell Whitaker. Hi, Kay.
Hi.
And we talked about the same subject on our mentorship call, and it was a really beautiful conversation. And I wanted to have it available to more to the public because they can't share what we talk in the mentorship. So that is one of the reasons. The other is last time we got a question from one of our friends about how do you create a new life? Well, you need to get out of the muggle bubble to create a new life. And the ancients describe that in how they understand what spirituality is. So, Kay, what is spirituality? Do they understand by, what do they mean by being spiritual?
It's such a good question. It's so primary to the entire subject because the use of the word in modern times has changed a lot, changed through languages, and the people in the modern culture, and that's most of the people on the planet, they do not know what the ancients meant by spirituality. They don't have any idea, even if they're Buddhist or Hindu, or they go to a Christian church, or they're Jewish with a temple, and on and on. These concepts have been lost. They've just been lost to the people. And these are the kind of things that my teachers wanted to bring back to the world. That's why they were teaching. That's why they were given permission to go out into the world and teach, both the Egyptian lineage carrier and the Hedekas from Peru. That was their purpose, to give us back what they said, had dangerously lost. And they mean that very seriously. Dangerously lost. So for them, spirituality, it includes everything that is not physical. Everything that's outside of 3D time, space, and matter world. Things of the matter world, they considered linear. And what we think of as our mind in the modern culture, our mind, we make this big deal about our mind, and it's got to be well trained and exercised and can behave brilliantly and all these things in our culture. It's the ruler, it's the dictator of the person in the culture. And the way the mind has been trained to think is very flat. It's very two-dimensional, one-dimensional. And it encompasses things that are of the 3D physical world, matter. And the belief is, if you can't think about it, and if you can't perceive it with your physical senses, then it can't possibly exist anywhere in the 3D world, or any, they don't even think beyond the 3D world anymore. They don't think there is anything else. But in the ancient teachings, there's so much more of the non-linear than there is the physical. And The first way they describe this is with the cat goddess Bast, or sometimes she's called Bastit. But in modern times, people like to shorten these things, and so she's Bast. Everywhere you look in the book, that's probably what you're going to see. And we know the statues. We've seen those statues of this cat just proudly sitting up, very head high, and the ears pointing up, big ears. And they make this crescent moon shape. The empty space between the ears is this big crescent moon kind of shape. It's rounded. So the hieroglyph for cat, and this was just in the mystery school teachings. They didn't teach these things outside of the mystery school in the temples. The cat, her symbol, her hieroglyph, was this curved line, which represents that curved space, and it represents the womb of a woman, or any animal that where the female is going to be carrying a womb, a uterus. That's the womb, and it's both the womb of the universe, and it's the womb of the human female. And touching it, this curve comes down and rests on this straight line. And the straight line goes down, 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 down. So it's very long. And it has a bottom line on the bottom, but that doesn't really mean anything. It's like the ground that it sits on, kind of a space. And very often at the top of this rectangle is a line that comes down. You have the top line and then this line. It doesn't go all the way down, it just goes down a little bit. And what that represents is, here she got the womb, and the square coming down is the outside, or would you call it the inside of the vagina coming down, and it is a penis. This is the description of the penis. And the reason you know for sure that it's a penis and it's in the womb and it's touching the uterus right there at the cervix is that little line, because at the top of the penis of the human male, that line represents the area where there's a hole. It goes way down inside the penis. That's where the sperm comes out. That's where the urine comes out. So there's an opening there, and that's what it represents, is this male and female aspects of existence, and male and female humans, or all the other species that procreate in this kind of a way, with a male and a female that have to get together and create a new being. And the sperm comes up and enters the womb. That is the spark. That's an initiator. It's an impulse. So in terms of the universal womb, the spark is our thought, pure thought. And it can be some other kind of a thought, like energy source that engages the womb and begins a process of creation. So this is what our thought does. This is one of the powers of our human thought. We're very, very, very powerful people, species. And this is just one of these powers. So this thought comes from the human. It goes out. It hits the womb of the universe, which I'll explain in a bit. And it penetrates and stimulates. And then all this energy that's stored in the womb of the universe, which is an astounding amount of energy, it's an unthinkably large amount of energy. And it's endless. It can't be depleted. And it's always there. It comes towards that womb of the universe that is the doorway. It's the portal between this nonlinear space, this subspace full of this energy, and our 3D physical world. And as it comes toward this space, it's not just plain energy. Energy always carries information. So you have this huge amount of information and this huge amount of energy, and it comes and goes through the womb of the universe, gets born into 3D time space, and it attracts the physical elements, the energetic elements, not like something from the periodic table. It's not that physical yet. This is pre-matter. The energetic elements, the first one being Akasha, which has the blueprint. And the nature of that blueprint is very attractive. It's very magnetic. So it attracts all the other elements. It attracts the air and the fire and the water and the earth, and they all come together. They fill out the blueprint according to the blueprint. And when the earth is the last one to come in there and weave itself in, you have full physical matter. And it could be anything. It could be a photon, it could be a proton, it could be an atom, it could be a molecule, it could be a whole organ, it could be a whole species, it could be something that is not considered alive in the same way. Like it's said that some of these alien species use this phenomenon to make their spaceships. They put into the womb of the universe how they want the spaceship made, every parameter, every piece of material, every molecule, every bit of the design of it. And some of these things are as big as a city or bigger. There are even some that are supposed to be way, way, way bigger, like as big as a state. And they just come into being out of that energetic fabric of space. Now that's something to contemplate. How do they manage to do that? They've probably been around for a few billion years, and they've figured those things out. They know how to do that stuff. It's just second nature to them. But what they can do and what we can do, the ability that we have, is to create anything with our mind, with our attention. And from the ancients' point of view, this is everything to do with the nonlinear. This is a spiritual activity. It is sacred. It's not to be abused. For humans, what that boils down to, especially humans in our state of being, the kind of cultures we tend to have and everything, that means we need to start taking account of what we're thinking, how we're thinking, what does it feel like, what are the feelings of it, what are the emotions of it, what does it do to our physical senses, what does it do to our perception. What does it do to our entire state of mind and being all at once? So we got mind, we got emotions, we got a body, physical body, we got the senses of our physical body, and we have our spiritual body. They have to be all engaged at the same time. Most of us have our mind kind of engaged. We haven't learned to focus it that well, and our ability to hold the concentration on what we're focusing on is like this big. It's like some scientists did an experiment. They measured the attention span of some goldfish in a bowl and measured it against humans, children and adults. The goldfish won. They could hold their attention on a certain thing and a certain matter or certain function way longer than the humans. Now that's a pretty sad state of affairs. We have degressed through the centuries. We have degressed and degressed, just major decline. And why is that? How'd that happen? We've declined in all kinds of areas: our physical health, our emotional health, our perception. When we are aiming our attention at something, we're perceiving something. And most of the time, most people in our world, modern world, we're aiming at something physical. We're aiming at something that we could see. Sometimes we're aiming at some kind of a concept that we have to think of with our linear mind and analyze it, figure it out. Or like with math, doing a math problem in your head. People aren't able to do that like they used to. In ancient cultures, people would memorize their sacred stories or the sacred texts if they had writings of any kind. Word for word, they'd have it memorized, and it was huge, 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 massive amounts of material. It would all be memorized, and they'd have all these plants and all the animals, their names and the kind of animal they were, what their lives were like, how we interact with them. They'd have all of that memorized too. And they didn't forget. And they could hold their attention on something, anything they picked, for a long, long, long time without being distracted or disrupted. And the ancients think of those abilities as being spiritual abilities. And they have their repercussions in the physical world, of course, because we have a physical body and we can aim our attention into physical things as well as non-physical things. We can aim our attention into our emotions. We can aim our attention into our feelings, which aren't the same as the emotions. They aren't exactly the same thing. They're a little different. With the emotions, these are the feelings that we're all familiar with like love and great happiness or joy, delight in something, a great sadness or anger or fear or jealousy, any of those things. Those are what some people use that word feelings because we seem to feel them, but it's different than the rest of our feelings. These are emotions. These are something very specific. So we could aim our attention into our emotions, and we can aim our attention into the feelings. The feelings are coming from all these different places in our entire totality, in our entire makeup. Some of the feelings can come from the physical body, or they can be felt in the physical body, but coming from something else. They can be a little connected to emotions, but they aren't exactly emotions. Those two things are not equal. Feelings can be stimulated from what we are thinking about, and feelings are how our spiritual part of our being, our spiritual body, so to speak, is perceiving things and experiencing things. And the ancients said that our spiritual body, the spiritual part of ourself, has sensory organs, like the physical body has sensory organs. It has touch and sight and smell and taste, all that stuff. The spiritual body has some feeling, some senses that kind of mimic that, but it's like what we're experiencing that seems physical when we're asleep, we're dreaming. We're having that dream and we think we feel this, that, and the other. We're not feeling those things through our physical body. Our physical body isn't moving. It's just laying there asleep. The rest of this is being stimulated by our imagination or by some kind of outside influences. Who knows? Lots of different ways to stimulate that. Our imagination, we can feel the things that we think up with our imagination. And with our spiritual body, the ancient Egyptians, this is not dynastic Egyptians, this is pre-flood Egyptians, long time ago, and probably other pre-flood cultures as well. And of course, the aliens that they learned it all from. The story goes in some parts of Egypt has now come out of the secret hiding holes that it's been in for millennia, that there are 360 spiritual senses. 360 different senses of the spirit. Now, even if that was just half true, that's still quite mind-boggling. And the ancients say the spiritual level of your being, which includes the heart chakra, and all your other chakras, the energy system of your body, this spiritual feeling is stretching out and expressing itself within all of these different modes, even the thinking mind. Our spiritual self, which is kind of centered in that heart chakra for the physical body, it has a way of perceiving and knowing all kinds of different things that are thought of to be impossible by modern people. We can look into our own body or anybody else's body, and just with a little training, not much at all, just a little training, learn how to perceive and communicate with anything in the body, any organ, any piece of tissue, any cell, the body fluids, anything, because they're all alive, they're all conscious, they all have a spirit, they all have a governing center for their own organ or tissue, and you can speak with that. You can ask that it kind of coalesces itself in a form like a body that you could see and you can talk to and perceive, and it could speak your language. You could ask them to do that, and they will. And so you can just sit down with, say, the liver, your liver, somebody else's liver, somebody you're trying to help heal or something, and have a nice deep chat with the liver spirit. I know that sounds a little odd. It's kind of radical for some people, but it's very true, and they've been doing it for a long, long time. And it's not just the Egyptians. Uh, I know of some Spanish, Mexican. They were that's Aztec. Yeah, that tribe was Aztec. He was an Aztec shaman, and he shouldn't have been, but he was divulging these secrets to his girlfriend, and she told me, and he described and taught her how to do the healing technique. And he says, "Oh, I just make myself very, very small, and I go into this other person's body, and I go talk to the body parts, and when we can do psychic surgery, and take an organ out if we have to. We take the poisons out and the bad energies and creepy crawly things, and whatever's in there that shouldn't be, we take it out, we clean it up, and we fill it full of good energy, and we replace the organs that we took out or whatever body parts with a brand new one that just popped out of the womb of the universe. The spirits just popped it out of the womb of the universe and gave it to him, and tells him what to do with it. He puts it in and fixes them all up, sews them up, and they're good to go. Now, in a world like this, the linear mind is not how the modern world people think about the linear mind. It's not the dictator, it's not the ruler, it's not uh, the greatest thing on earth to rule everything and find out everything and know and learn everything and give orders to everybody. It's not the ruler. It's a tool. The linear mind is a tool. Just a tool. And it is the tool of the spirit body and the emotions. And when you're in a physical body, it's the tool of the physical body as well. Never the ruler. And what it has become in the modern world is a ruler. And it thinks it is the big kingpin. And nothing can tell it what to do or add anything to its knowledge. It's the kingpin. How could you add anything to the kingpin? But that is a very unfortunate misconception. And all these things are what are truly spiritual. This is part of the spiritual world. This is part of our spiritual body. Our spirituality is centered in our spiritual being, which is a vibration. And the linear mind is often talked about as being another body. We have a spiritual body and the mental body and an emotional body and a physical body. And they aren't really bodies unto themselves, and they're not separated from each other in any way, what uh, any possible way at all. They all are one thing, but they are vibrating at a different set of frequencies. That's what separates them. If you want to try to look at them as separated, they aren't really separated. There's nothing pulling any of these things apart from each other. They're totally integrated within our being. But our physicality is vibrating in a certain set of frequencies. Our emotional part of our being and experience is vibrating in another set of frequencies. Then our mental activity goes on in another set of frequencies. And then the spiritual activities goes on in another whole huge set of frequencies. Very, very, very expansive because it's tying in with the rest of the world. The spiritual self is where we tie into everything, and how we tie in a very, very connected way to everything, everybody, everything. This is how we perceive that everything is alive and it's conscious and it has its own beingness, its own song, as we would say. And it takes on different kinds of forms from time to time, if that's what they like to do. But everything is incredibly connected. And there's so much of this energy, this life energy that fills this subspace, which is actually just as the vacuum of time space. It's inside ourselves. It's between every subatomic particle. It's between me and you, and it's between me and the wall, and it's it's in the sky, it's in the water, it's in the trees, it's in everybody, everything. This subspace, this energy field, this giant, unthinkable, hard to comprehend super consciousness. This is where the womb of the universe is. It's in those spaces between what we think of as a piece of physical matter. So it could be between the spaces between subatomic particles. That's really tiny. It could be out in the universe, out there with the black that we see at night, between the stars and the other planetary things that are out there. The vacuum space, or sometimes it's called the void, or it's called the quantum field, or the natives, ancient peoples, call it things like the field of consciousness and the field of aliveness, the field of awareness, the field of beauty. A lot more names than that. Just goes on and on. It is everywhere, and it's in everything. And all that humongous amount of energy that I was saying in the beginning about in that subspace where the womb of the universe is, you go in there, this astounding amount of energy. It's right here. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in us. We have access to that. Our consciousness can access that. And it does all the time. And that's how we create the world. And these are some of the secrets that are coming out of of what has been hidden in Tibet and in the Native American cultures and within African cultures and Australian Aboriginal cultures, uh, with it came out of what was from the ancients, the far, far away ancients before the flood. They they knew this. They had grown enough to really understand themselves and the universe and how they connect to the universe, how they are part of the universe, not separated from anything, not separated from the universe, not separated from this incredible amount of consciousness, from this love. That's another thing that all that energy, that vacuum field is called is the field of love, because as the Egyptians say, that's the firstborn. Love was the firstborn thing in the universe, and everything else is made out of it. And it never is depleted. This can't be killed. It doesn't die away, but it does grow and it does replicate. And we can see that in our current culture. We can see how deep love is contagious and it replicates and it fills spaces and it fills people and it changes people's lives. And this is what the ancients called spirituality. What we hear today sometimes from modern people and from the modern culture talking about spirituality is often is a lot of things about morals and social rules. And it doesn't have anything to do with things that are nonlinear and of the spiritual body, but with very earthly kind of things. And it's good that they explore things like that, that they're learning to feel things like that instead of being angry or in the middle of a war and fighting other people and fearful. And it's a good aiming in the right direction. But their definition of spirituality is so very, very, very different than the ancients. And that's what I was taught from the ancient Egyptians and from ancient people in Peru that came from Lemuria. That's what spirituality means. And that's what attention means. To be truly spiritual, you have to take control of your attention, which means you have to take control of your linear mind and you can't let it pretend it's the dictator anymore. You got to kick it out of the throne and get back in your own throne and find the totality of yourself. People don't understand the totality of themselves and the kind of feeling and senses and creative abilities. We're creating our own world all the time, whether we know it or not, whether we're thinking bad things or good things, whatever it is we're thinking and carrying around, believing, that's the kind of thing we tend to create. We're sending the energy in that direction. And another way of saying it is we're from the beast. And we see the beast everywhere. And the beast is nasty thought forms. Nasty, nasty thought forms. You feed the beast, it grows, and it feeds you bad things to keep you addicted and connected to the beast. And you keep, you just keep thinking the same thing, you keep feeling the same thing, you keep believing the same old stuff. And living a miserable and probably dangerous life. The ancients say this is the end of that old world. The old world did that. For the last at least 5,000 years, probably 10,000 years, people have learned to live that way and increasing with every century, getting more and more linear and more dogmatic, and their understanding narrowing down, their abilities shrinking. They're artificially just cut off from their spiritual self. One thing the Hedicas taught me from Peru, we were we were downtown in Santa Cruz, California, and sitting on some public cafe drinking they love French roast coffee. We're drinking our French roast coffee, and they're telling me to watch the people walking by and sitting down and feel them. With all your attention, all the different parts of your beingness, all the different feelings, feel them and see if you can, inside your head, if you could see what's happening in their aura. And you watch their aura. And if you tune in with your attention, you can tune into the different frequencies. The physical frequency, you can see what's going on with the physical body, and you could tune in with the emotional frequencies, see what that's doing at that moment. Tune into the mental frequencies, you see what's happening there. You tune into the spiritual frequencies, see what's happening there. And all these people, all these adults, big kids and adults, not tiny kids, but all the big kids and the adults, all their activity is squished in towards their body, and it's distorted so that their auric field is not the shape it should be, and it's all kind of warped and condensed, and what it looks like it got beat up. And the activity is right here in the front of their body and in back, mostly in the front, in their head. And it's in the thinking. It's in the thinking body, so to speak. Sometimes the emotional. And in the physical, they're not paying attention to it very much, but all kinds of things going wrong, things starting to go wrong, and maybe the arthritis is there, and some indigestion, and you just see this physical discomfort. And in the spiritual body, nothing. It looks empty. That's an impossibility. It's not actually empty. It's just not very active. And so you don't see any colors. You don't see any movement. You don't see anything happening. But between that mental and emotional things, you can see some interaction happening, or you can see a little interaction with some of the physical things sometimes. But that's all, it's really small. But the most astounding thing is that appearance of their spiritual body. That it's just a non-used organ. And when you see real tiny little kids, babies, toddlers, maybe 2-3-year-olds, maybe a 4-year-old, but at 4, they're certainly starting to get the culture coming down on them, and they're starting to change a little bit. But they're born without any of this indoctrination from the culture. So they know who they are. They know what they are. They're perceiving and using all different levels, all frequencies, all at once. and it goes way out. And you see the little bitty kids, they're screaming, and they're really happy, and they're running back and forth, and playing with whatever they got, some balloons or balls or just each other. Uh, And it looks like, from a modern person's point of view, like, oh my God, that's, we're downtown. This is chaos. Stop. Go sit down. Behave yourself. You're doing bad things. But what's really happening with this kid is they're using every part of their whole being, their whole song, every part of their body. They're interactive. They've got all these colors and brightness and beautiful colors, not nasty colors. They're all fun and beautiful and sparkling, and some of them are glowing. And as they're running and screaming, they're leaving a trail. They leave a trail behind them of all these colors and the play, and everything is wild and fanciful and beautiful. They're using everything. I rarely see that in an adult. I did have the opportunity to see that with a student once, uh, with these two men who were composers, musicians, of a very sophisticated level. They had come into town for some really big kind of a concert, Bach festival kind of thing. And they were talking their music, sitting in a cafe. And they were like the little girl that was running in front of me downtown. And then they'd have this. I didn't know what it was at first, but after I kind of felt myself into it with it, I realized there was sound to that. This this could only be describing that sound, and I'm hearing a symphony. I'm hearing crescendos and music, dancing, and these men were living it and sharing it with each other. Incredibly beautiful, and the feeling. The whole, if you could let yourself feel it with all the different levels of your feeling, it was just knock you over. The woman I was with, that I was teaching and having her watch, I said, oh, look, we have a special treat today. Go look at that over there at that table. they're really, they're really good. They had completely grown themselves out of the dominance of the modern culture, and they were able to use their spiritual body and their emotional body, their mental body, and their physical body, and all their feelings. And you could, it was so visceral. It filled the little cafe that we were in. And when it whooshed by our table and through us, it was like, oh, that's so delicious. That's just so beautiful. And there was an edge of it that I could hear with the spirit ears. It's almost like hearing with the physical ears, but these were the spiritual ears. So dynamic and so full of excitement and love and passion. That is spirituality. That is living spirituality. You got to get out of the beast. You get out of the bad thought forms. These huge amounts of bad thought forms that cover our earth, that most people, modern people, are subject to, and they're part of, and they're addicted to, and they live in it, and that's everything to them, and it blocks out all of it, all the rest of what's real. It blocks out everything spiritual. One thing about this boss image, with the womb. The womb is considered huge, literally endless. It's so big. The, the penis is very material. This is the material world, very physical, and it's really small, and it has straight lines, and it's got right angles and corners, and that's representing the the confinement and the smallness and the tightness, tight spaces of the physical world, and the tight spaces that could happen with the mind, because the mind is more has more physical aspects to it than it does the spiritual aspects. But our spiritual aspect has its own kind of mind, which we learn from feeling with our heart. With thinking and feeling from our heart, we can learn that aspect of this spiritual part of our being. Those are ancient teachings about spirituality. It was incredibly important to them, the most important thing. I'd love to hear some stories and some response.
You were on a roll. Beautiful. We don't have much time left. We have like not even 10 minutes for the hour. So, do we want to continue that in the next talk? Because there's a lot more to go into and share. How that, especially, how that translates into living it in our modern world.
Yeah. Do either of you ladies have something that fits within this 10 minutes?
I'm still caught up in your sharing. So I personally, I don't. It was like, I just knowing the experience of shifting out of the muggle way of thinking of a spirituality.
I feel the same way. I feel like I just had a front row seat to the best teaching ever. I mean, you basically told us how powerful we are and what we can expect going forward. You know, that expansion, the idea that we have power is so different than
we have power, big power. And the folks that are at the top of the, as we like to call it, the beast, or the thought form that's swallowing the earth, this nasty, corrupt world, they think power has to do with force and violence and money, corrupt money, that they probably have lots and lots of. But that's not real power. That's not power at all. Real power is our beingness, our song, our attention, and focusing that attention on all these different levels of experience and perception, being aware, perceiving on all these different levels. We are so incredibly powerful in what we can create. We need to realize we're creating by ourselves and in group the worlds that we experience. My life, your life, all of our lives together on this planet, we are creating it. And we have that much creative power. We can tell the womb of the universe whatever we want, ask whatever we want to be taught to us, to be shown to us, to be given to us, health to be given to us, to replace body parts, whatever. Expand our awareness of spirit senses. You know, the old fairy tales about the super people who used to live, so long ago, and they were some kind of special priest, and they had these abilities, or they came from a special place, therefore they had these abilities. So that's the whole population of humans. There were people who had before us that had developed those abilities. And there are people all along the way, hidden, like in Tibet and in tribes and in little priesthoods and stuff, who have developed all of these abilities and this understanding, and they pass it down to their own people. Now it's coming out to everybody because it's time for the new world to be built, and in this new world, these abilities are going to be known, and they are going to be commonplace. It'll take a while for all these things to develop, but not that long. That's what's ahead of us. I see a message from Peter Bloom.
So I find that when I sing the song, toddlers and even infants, they notice and say with surprise, "You know my language." I love doing that. Yep.
And pets.
Pets are incredible teachers for coming to know the totality of ourselves and what our attention is, and our whole spiritual part of our being, and what that means to the rest of us, our body. They intertwine, all these different parts of us, these different bodies are totally intertwined. How does that work? If you got one turned off, part of what you're intertwining is not working. It's like a machine that some of the parts of the machine are defunct. Things don't work quite right. That's what's happened to us. That's what our culture is like right now. That's why most of the human beings, they live that way. So much of our beingness is broken. Not permanently, it can be fixed. But they're living in a broken way.
Helmut, you're muted.
Again. Okay, I think we'll leave it here for the day. You guys okay with that?
I think it's beautiful.
Pretty incredible. If you want to join our community and study these ancient teachings and learn this way of spirituality, there are a couple of emails, mine and Laura's. Just get in touch with us. And I think we need to continue that. There's so much more we can add that's important. Maybe next week. We'll see. I don't know if you're going to have a talk next week because I'm busy on Wednesday, but we'll work it out. And if not, after.
Beautiful.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to really go there, but let's just check into it. What is the pure frequency for staying in balance and in song all or most of the time?
It's not
Unconditional
a-
love.
Ah, very good. It's not a single frequency. It's not a single frequency. It's a frequency that penetrates through all levels of frequencies and all levels of existence. And like Helmut said, it's unconditional love.
Beautiful. I'm sorry we didn't have much more time for interaction with you guys, but thanks for joining us live. And thanks for being here and sharing your questions and comments. And hopefully we see you next time.
We'll pick up the conversation again. Okay.
Love it.
Love what you all said, ladies. Beautiful, beautiful comments. Yeah.
Love you. See you next time.
Love you all. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Love you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.